Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the On the Line Tennis Podcast. It's me, Jack, and my co-host.
Having you back again this week. Good to be with you, discussing
Yep.
all things Miami.
Episode 37, by the way. That first section I could just copy and paste every time, and then maybe your reaction to the episode number every time you're like, "Whoa!"
Time is getting on, yeah.
Still, 37 is a lot of episodes. We're still alive and kicking, which is good. We are covering everything in Miami this week. We are going to talk about, I'll run you through it all. It's going to be very match-centered this week. Sinner Kyrgios, Medvedev Brooksby, Medvedev Hurkacz. Then a bit later in the tournament, Ruud Zverev, Ruud Alcaraz. Alcaraz Catchmanovich and Alcaraz Hurkacz. So basically just all the quarters, semis and final discussions that are worth talking about, and a few of the fourth rounds obviously that are definitely worth talking about. And then on the WTA side we've got Collins Osaka, Bencic Osaka, Swiatek Kvitova and Swiatek Osaka. Let's dive into the Miami Masters discussion. We'll start, Gav, with the Sinner Kyrgios match.
Yes, it was much hyped and it did not disappoint. I think Carlos Bernardes probably needs therapy after that. I think he must just be...
Oh, he does. And I'm assuming the ATP will be paying for that, surely, because,
I hope so. I bet you his heart must have sank. He always seems to get the most difficult matches. See, for me, if you've got a Kyrgios Sinner, if you've got a difficult match, just give it to Mohamed Liani, because like everyone seems to get on with Mohamed Liani.
There's no arguing with that face, is there? That's the thing.
That is the cure to depression. It's just Mohamed Liani.
Yeah, totally is actually, isn't it?
Even for listeners, if you're feeling down about anything, just watch Mohamed Liani, like the best of combination on YouTube.
That's a good idea. I love that guy.
That's like the NHS should prescribe that for depression. Mohamed Liani.
Why not? You get it for free on YouTube, 100%. It's the best prescription possible. You're quite right. Bernard has definitely got it pretty bad in this match. I think the first thing I want to talk about, I mean, there's a ton of stuff to talk about controversy-wise, but one of the first things that Kyrgios started going on about was the pace of the court. That was like the first thing he started complaining about, basically. One of his quotes was, may as well... So, bit of context, he played on centre court up until this match, and he's basically said that the centre court was so much slower than the courts outside. It was like, may as well be grass and clay. It's a joke. Bit more information, though. The court pace index came up. They were pretty much exactly the same. Other players, for example, Catchmanovich, have said the courts feel exactly the same. Kyrgios said he should have been warned beforehand that the courts were going to be different speeds. Is it bullshit, Gav, or like what?
I think it's bullshit.
Nonsense.
I mean, think about it. If he's going to be practicing at the tournament, he would have practiced on a different court to the centre court. You don't just practice on the centre court. He's played there in Miami before. For me, it's just a case of, and it sounds harsh, but it's a case of Kyrgios, almost like when he's got an opportunity to win something and do something special, he almost gets in his own way. I don't know whether it's the fact that he's just scared to try. I think that maybe that is part of it. I mean, I do think that is an element to Kyrgios where he's almost scared to try in case he fails. So he's scared of failing. Me, I would say it's almost worse not trying to apply yourself. If you fail and you apply yourself, you can't complain, but he's not applying himself. And this was a golden opportunity to win a Masters, as well as Alcaraz has been playing. Kyrgios was playing unbelievably well, and the draw opened up. There was no Nadal, Sinner retired in the next round. It was a golden opportunity. If he got through Sinner, he would have played Cerundolo, and you expect to get through Cerundolo. Then you've got Ruud. Anything can happen there. Then you're into the final. So
one of the few players that might have had the weaponry to beat Alcaraz as well, definitely.
And he had a golden opportunity, and he's effectively thrown it down the toilet. And
FFF, obviously, as Nadal says, doesn't exist, in fairness. But yeah, I a little bit more on that, Gav, because there was a moment at 4-5, like love 30. He starts putting in second serves, and he's serving volleys off the back of them. It almost looks like he doesn't give a shit. It works in his favour because Sinner actually isn't the best passer in the game. He does rely on a lot of spin on either wing. He does struggle to keep it low over the net. I would say that at least. At the same time, he really shouldn't have. He was coming in off nothing balls basically, and it kind of worked in his favour because Sinner wasn't expecting it. I'm only drawing negatives off that because really, as you say, he basically is just willing to. If he actually applies himself and he fails, then he feels like he's failed. He didn't try there, so it's a win-win for him.
That's basically the thing that irritates me with Kyrgios. He walks around with a swagger as if he's like, and he's very much almost what's wrong with Swaggers if he's got an aura about him? I don't think there is really any aura about him at all. I mean, I think for me, he just, in the big moments, in big tournaments, in the big rounds, he doesn't turn up, or he always gets in his own way. It's almost as if he argues with the umpire. It's almost as to give him an excuse. Because, I didn't win that match because I argued with the umpire, or I didn't win the match because I didn't like the court surface, so I didn't win the match because I felt Rafa was doing this or the next thing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He blames too many other circumstances rather than just admitting that he's not going for it full pelt.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit of elaboration on a few of those points. So one of the things, the court pace index, Kyrgios started saying that after he was dealing with Sinner's second serve. So against Rublev, he was coming in really far into the court, taking them super early. Sinner hits a bigger ball. He hits a bigger second serve. And when Kyrgios wasn't able to attack those, that's when he starts complaining. I mean, he gets them deeper, he hits them faster. Kyrgios has just been a knob. Honestly, you just got to respect the player over the other side of the net. He's hitting a better second serve. So,
and if you think about it as well, his outbursts are directly affecting Sinner as well. Because I mean, if you're Sinner, it's very difficult to stay focused. I mean, the atmosphere was pandemonium. I think they said in Amazon Prime it was like a zoo. It was like a zoo.
He did an amazing job of it. Obviously, he must have seen the pictures of him completely composed as Kyrgios is going mental right in front of him.
Worst I've seen Kyrgios abuse an umpire. I mean, it was borderline. Well, it was abuse, but it was borderline getting to the point I thought he should be disqualified.
Yeah, I agree.
But at the start of the second set, I mean,
it was getting too far. You're right.
It's just ridiculous. And the fact that the ATP continued to do nothing about it just shows you how weak an organisation they are, really. I mean, somebody needs to come out and say it, because I think the media outlets have been very much, well, we can't criticise the organisation too much, but you've got to criticise them. I mean, it's absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
The employees, the umpires who are effectively doing this job, they don't get much thanks for it. Okay, they get paid quite well, I'm guessing, but to have to turn up at work and face that day in, day out, every time he plays a match, there's always an incident. It's just not good enough. They are not providing proper assistance or proper support to the umpires, especially Bernardes when he's had to go through it multiple times.
Yeah, I agree. Bit on Sinner, just very quickly before we move on, because it would be remiss of me to not mention Sinner's performance and just talk about Kyrgios's craziness, definitely. During the tournament, obviously, I think we might know this at this point, but I'll just say it anyway. He did save 8 match points. Amazing. Obviously, he was so good under pressure, and it was the same against Kyrgios again in the tiebreak. He was amazing. He is now 7-0 in 2022 in tiebreaks. Incredible record, definitely. I mean, there's no two ways about that. He stayed totally calm, so when Kyrgios did that racket smashing stuff, he wasn't phased at all. Gave him a break of serve at the start of the match, start of the second set, when Carlos Bernardes awarded, or what's the opposite of awarded?
Well, penalised.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Gave him a game penalty, whatever it is.
A game penalty, but yeah, it was a penalty against Kyrgios and an award for Sinner.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. He said after the match, Sinner, that the biggest difference for him was how well he served, and it was true. It was how well he served. He didn't get broken the whole time, and in massive moments, he served incredibly well, and it is becoming an asset for him rather than a problem, which we were talking about last year.
Yeah, absolutely. About 52 weeks ago, at the start of the podcast when we started doing it.
Pretty much exactly that. Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I really noticed how he needed to improve his serve in Monte Carlo last year when he was playing against Novak. It's improved, so fantastic. I mean, we've not been going 52 weeks, but 37 weeks ago we were doing this.
Yeah. But obviously 52 weeks ago, Gavi was playing in the Miami final, and that was part of the reason he lost it. So you're quite right.
37 weeks later.
Better. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Bit on Medvedev, we'll move on to Medvedev Brooksby. Yep. I obviously was incredibly excited for this one, very eager to see how it would pan out. It was a good match, actually. It was pretty good. Yeah. The one thing I'd say for Brooksby, one of the reasons he was so successful at the start of the match, he went up 4-1 on a break point. Very good with that forehand slice. Obviously something I kind of thought would be useful for him, because he's one of the few players that can get it that low and sort of junky to Medvedev's forehand. Medvedev's actually getting better at hitting the backhand slice, off the backhand slice. He's not. It's still a weakness maybe for him, a slight weakness, but he's getting a lot better at dealing with that on the forehand. Not so much, and sometimes you can kind of catch him off guard at the start of the match, and it'll take him a while to sort of readjust to that. So I mean, he was doing that a lot. He was winning a lot of the extended rallies just by sheer persevering. So a lot of the forehand slices that he hit to Medvedev's forehand, if that was short, that gave Brooksby an attackable ball. He isn't just somebody who rolls the ball back into the play. He will wait for the right ball to attack, and he will punish you for a short ball, basically. But eventually, Medvedev dug in. He did some of that stuff we see when he has got his back against the wall, massive second serves, for example. Serve and drive volleys, one of the only player who really does serve and drive volley, as opposed to serve and volley, sitting in the middle of the court and waiting to take one out of the air, basically. Shortening the points deliberately. However, as the match went on, Medvedev just started to find deeper backhands through the middle of the court rather than getting them too angled. You give Brooksby the angle, he does just, he gets you running side to side, basically. And it was working. Eventually, Brooksby did wane. He started tiring, and if Brooksby's not winning the longer rallies at the moment, he will fall away very quickly, as you can imagine.
Well,
Gav.
He's getting the 3 points in the serve, so it's
exactly
for him to get quick and easy, cheap points. But
exactly.
Very good performance from Brooksby up until the end of the first set, and then when he lost that first set, I feared for him. I thought, this is only going to go one way, and it ended up going the way I exactly thought it would. So
10 of the last 11 games, Medvedev's way, won only 2 return points. Brooksby did in the second set. So it gives you an idea of how comfortable it became eventually. But really interesting match to see Medvedev flip it and stuff. I really enjoyed watching it. Did you get to see any Medvedev Hurkacz?
Very, very excited to watch that. I was very hyped up for it, and being honest, for me, it didn't really deliver what I wanted it to deliver. Medvedev was clearly struggling physically, and as we found out, he's got that hernia, which he's going to miss a lot of the clay court season. I wouldn't be surprised if he missed Roland Garros actually and just packed it all in for the clay. Wouldn't surprise me at all, especially if you watched his outburst in Madrid last year. He's not exactly a fan of the clay.
He made the quarters of the French Open, though. He's his own worst critic.
Yeah, he did. But for me, I felt Hurkacz actually was not the better player in that first set. I thought even though he got the quick 3-love lead, Medvedev actually for the majority of the set played better, and it was just in the tiebreak he managed to nick it. And then obviously with Medvedev struggling physically, Hurkacz was able to exploit that. But I didn't think it was a particularly great Hurkacz performance for me.
I agree. He said like Medvedev saved some set points really, really well, and after he saved those set points, he looked like the player in the ascendancy for me.
Break points, didn't he? Something like that. He didn't convert Hurkacz. The second serve high in the backhand, I noticed that he was struggling to put it in play. He was hitting a lot into the net, getting very tight. And that ultimately proved to be his downfall against Alcaraz for me. I think his return to serve needs to get better.
Definitely. Definitely. You've mentioned that before, and you're quite right. There's loads of opportunities for him to improve that shot in particular, definitely. But credit to Hurkacz, to be fair, he was coming into the net really well throughout the match. That was one of the reasons I felt that he was able to overpower Medvedev. Certainly Medvedev's tactics changed for me. I think he stopped Hurkacz coming into the net by coming into the net first, and obviously it's not the place he looks the most comfortable, but that's one way you can stop a player approaching the net. Obviously take the first move, even if you're not super comfortable there, and he did it really well throughout that first set. So he looked like the uncomfortable player for in some ways, but because he was dealing with something he would do so uncomfortably, I thought he looked like the better player. But at the same time, you got to give Hurkacz a lot of credit because
his net play is fantastic. He was a double champion in Miami. He's a fantastic volleyer, but for me, there still needs to be some improvement in his court play and his return to serve if he wants to be winning big titles consistently.
Medvedev said he felt a bit weak, as you say. You obviously had that injury.
He was barreling over. It sounds offensive, but it was like Monfils body language in a way.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Where you doubled over for long periods of time. Yeah,
leaning over on his racket, you could tell. I thought, this is done straight sets, and it proved to be.
Medvedev quote of the week said he felt like a fish on the couch.
Should have got him to write my English essays for me.
He likes the dead fish metaphors, doesn't he? Yeah, definitely.
Right. Well, at University English, I
think. Right, we'll move on from Medvedev. We'll go on to the eventual finalist of the tournament, Casper Ruud, and his match of the tournament for me was his match against Zverev. I was just going to talk a little bit about that first. So, Gab, did you see any of it? What did you feel about it?
Yep, for me, I actually thought I saw the upset coming. I still think Casper Ruud's very underrated in hard courts. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. If I was to compare it to like a player, I'd say Pablo Carreño Busta almost. Like a lot of people just assume, he's a Spaniard, he likes to play better. and he doesn't get the credit for being great hard court player. I think we saw how good he was in the hard courts last year, how much he'd improved. And for me, I thought Zverev's just going into this match with so little confidence that for me, I felt Ruud could get the upset, and he did. He played very, very well. For me, Zverev's still got this problem tactically. I think he still needs to improve tactically as a player. For me, in matches, he's either too passive at times, or he looks unsure tactically about what he's going to do. I think getting a proper coach in place, would it be like a coach like a Lendo? I know he's tried a Lendo before.
Well, quick note on that, he's trialling Bruguera.
Is he trying? I didn't know that. He's trialing Bruguera. Wow, he's working his way through the greats of the game then. Hopefully he sticks with one. He's got the tools. I still think he's winning a slam. There's been a lot of talk, I think, from yourself as well, that he's not winning one, or you don't think he will win one, or you don't think it's guaranteed he'll win one. I don't know. Do you not think he'll win one? Is that what you're...
I think odds on are that he will win one, but I definitely don't think it's a guarantee. That's basically what I was saying.
It's not locked in, but for me, I think there's too many positives in his game that he's got just from his talent and his power and his serve that I think he will win one, but I don't think he's going to dominate the game in a way that I think many people thought maybe 2016 when he first came onto the scene, thought he was going to win 5 to 10 slams. I'm talking maybe 3 to 5 at best, potentially.
Big mental blocks there for me, definitely.
Yeah.
I wanted to run through a few of the tactics from this match because it was very interesting, and a lot of people, will just look at Ruud and say, big forehand, big spinny forehand. That's how he got through Zverev. It was a lot more nuanced than that. Definitely one of the biggest keys for Ruud, and it has been all week, but especially against Zverev, is that juice serve out wide on the first. He does love it. Yeah, the first and the second though. So either of those. But one of the reasons obviously it works so well against Zverev is that forehand is the wing that breaks down. Even if you give Zverev a ball within his reach, a lot of the time he can be put under pressure and not attack it as well as he would like to.
I think that's part of the problem. Sometimes he's too passive in the forehand, or you just can't work out the rally tempo on it, whether he wants to go big or whether he wants to sit back, and it kind of goes into a mishmash mess a wee bit.
Yeah. I mean, he barely dropped a point on serve in the first set, and that was basically the reason for him winning that first set. The first point he lost all week on first serve juice out wide was in that second set, and the only mistake Ruud made was to try and run around a forehand cross court or forehand inside out basically, and his own inside out forehand. Sometimes if you force that on a hard court, you don't get to the ball as quickly as you like. You open up your forehand side as well, obviously, for Zverev's backhand. That obviously is going to play right into his... Obviously, he just caught it a bit late. It's not a bad play tactically, but because he was forcing the issue, Zverev got on top of the point, and then he broke him, and then that set kind of spiraled out of control from there. Basically, that was the turning point for me. There was like 4 serve plus ones in a row. I don't know if you remember that Ruud just totally fluffed. You were like, what the hell's happened to him here? This is crazy. He just went totally off the boil for a little bit. So that made all the difference in that set. And then third set, so an overall theme from the match, but also in the third set in particular, Ruud had made a ton of returns just using that chip return. Obviously, it's something we've seen improve from the latter half of last year. Pretty much the only shot the first serve obviously improved, but one of the main shots in his improvements on hard courts in general last year, because he was putting so much in play, he wasn't trying to be aggressive necessarily. He did cite the Paris Masters, their last match, him and Zverev. Zverev got a lot of serve plus ones, so I think Ruud was trying to be too aggressive there. He'd spin a lot of balls short and Zverev would attack them really easily. Obviously, indoors helps a little bit as well. But he did say that he was making a lot more returns than he did in Bercy. And he was a little bit too short on those returns as well. So it doesn't matter if you're not getting a lot of pace on them. A lot of the time, a chip return is just good enough to neutralise the point. It depends what player you're playing. There are players that can do it better than others. Zverev's serve plus one isn't the best for me. As you say, too passive sometimes, right?
Too passive. Yeah. Big problem for him.
Yeah. So he hits a big, massive serve. It floats back to the baseline. Zverev can't capitalise all the time in that ball. Definitely. So it was a massive reason that Ruud was able to get through. Just a couple of percentages as well. So Ruud only lost 3 points throughout the match using that just serve out wide. It was perfect against him. Obviously, it was a strength of Casper's going into a weakness of Zverev's.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it was definitely the key to the match. Those were the 2 keys for me. Chip returns and just serve out wide.
Yep.
Okay. Bet on this week's winner.
Yeah. Nice. Not surprised at all.
No, well, I mean, I'm still a bit surprised it's happening so soon, but
nobody can escape from Alcaraz.
No, yeah, like is that a Robbie line, a Robbie Koenig line, or
it's a niche Clint Eastwood 1970s joke, which only Robbie Koenig probably gets.
it was an original though. Was that an OG one, Gav? Because it was good. I like that.
Yeah.
Everyone freaking loves Carlos Alcaraz. Is the takeaway from this week for me. We'll get onto the matches in a second, but who doesn't love him? Honestly, two things for me. But I'm interested in your thoughts first. Why do you think everybody loves Alcaraz?
Well, there's nothing bad to say about him, really. He's got a great game, good sportsmanship throughout the week. Seems humble enough. Not one of the big three, so he's not yet built a mad, crazy, fan base that would defend him, or see with a big three fan base on Twitter. If you can get tennis Twitter on your side, that is almost a miracle, really. There's always somebody's finding a fault with him or fault with players, but no, I think everyone's just excited because of how young he is and how good he is. Just shows age is not a factor. When you're ready, you're ready. And
of course, exactly.
He's phenomenal. I mean, it's phenomenal to watch.
You pretty much nailed my points there. I will flesh a couple of them out from my perspective. Certainly, the sportsmanship thing. He's people talk about sportsmanship and players can do this sort of thing, but that double bounce against Hurkacz, he absolutely didn't have to do that. And I've seen Nadal, and I'm sorry, Nadal, you are definitely a sportsmanly guy, and I might give you the benefit of the doubt, but I have seen him walking away from double bounces.
Yep.
Basically the umpire's job, and it is.
Happens,
yeah. And I don't know, Alcaraz was just like, no, we'll play the point again. He didn't have to do that at all.
Yeah.
So, absolute credit to the guy. He actually is a sportsman if ever there was one. I think the crowd absolutely loved it. They were going crazy every time it happened. And then, the other factor, obviously, he's a very good player, but he's got a wow factor about some of his shots.
Oh, he does, yeah. I mean, he's got every tool in the book. Most players you could think, he's not strong at the net, or he needs to improve his return, but he's got every tool in the book. That's what's special about him.
Exactly,
He's got great touch. He's got great net play. People, we talk about his serve being like his weakest aspect. His serve's still bloody good. I mean,
it is, yeah.
I mean,
still not bad.
How much power he's got for 18? Like,
yeah, exactly. I like. We'll speak a bit more about Catchmanovich in a second, but literally the only difference in the tail end of that third set between the two players was a couple of insane points from Alcaraz here and there, just like mad shots. And the only reason that Catchmanovich got broken at all was a couple of crazy shots. There was one that Catchmanovich had the backhand volley in the net, and then it's just like this like mad running forehand pass lob, basically.
That was like Andy.
I think you know the one I mean, exactly.
Pavlovich at Wimbledon.
That's maybe the only reason I dislike Alcaraz, is that he might have stolen the best lob on tour in a few years from Andy Murray, unfortunately. But I like him at the moment. I've not made an enemy with him yet, but we'll just see how that lob progresses. Let's talk about Catchmanovich. I've got a bunch of stuff on this in the blog, so again, I'd like to keep it short and from an analysis point of view, but just certainly, there was only one break of serve for Catchmanovich. There was only two breaks of serve for Alcaraz, who has been, he's been breaking 42% of the time on hard courts this season, right down to 13% given the amount of service games they played. Catchmanovich was amazing. He doesn't serve big, massive, huge serves. It's just tidy serve plus ones all the time. He doesn't have to do too much. This is all Nalbandian based as well. This is all Nalbandian's doing, because he wasn't
really
doing
struggling before this season, wasn't he? Really struggling.
Yeah,
really struggling.
Exactly. I mean, I saw a clip of him and Nalbandian in, I believe it was like Indian Wells last year or something. Nalbandian's just focusing on depth. He said a lot of the time you don't have to have a fastball. Sometimes depth, or pretty much most of the time, depth is more important than speed. And I mean, Catchmanovich is still hitting a big ball. He was hitting 79 miles an hour on average, actually, on the forehand. But just getting heavy balls into the corners with loads of margin on them. Yeah. It just he made it look really simple.
Yeah, and he's not like a Gilles Simon type that just gives you put respect to Simon junk, but he's able to hit it with pace, and then without pace he can vary it up. And I'm really happy that he's playing really well now, because I was concerned about him, because I watched him play, was the Antalya final 2019, I think it was, but he lost to
Sonego,
yeah. And that was Sonego's first title. And after that, his level, Kecmanovich's level, sort of just went down, and was almost like really, he was struggling to win any matches, I think. And then now he's back where I knew his potential could be. So that's really good to see.
It is. It's amazing to see. But yeah, again, as I say, the reason that Alcaraz won is just a couple of crazy shots here and there. I don't often say that. Normally, I don't just try and generalise as much as that, but it totally was the case. Catchmanovich deserved to win as much as Alcaraz did.
One of the matches of the year, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 35 forehand winners from Alcaraz to get through, and 29 out of 34 at the net. What a player. Yeah. Amazing.
Almost Marin Cilic, like.
Almost Marin Cilic, like, yeah.
Quite.
Not quite, exactly. He's getting close, though. Alcaraz Hurkacz.
Yes.
This was one of those matches for me that it kind of shows us why Alcaraz is going to be so great in that he didn't play the best match.
But he played the big points better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's ultimately what it comes down to for me. Again, it highlights him. Hurkacz is maybe his what would be the right word? His the faults he had against Medvedev, despite getting over the line, weren't going to rush against Alcaraz. It wasn't going to work against Alcaraz. Needs to improve that return. But to be fair, Alcaraz I thought was phenomenal in the big pressure moment. He was able to come through. He was the better player. He looked the more experienced of the two players for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think he just dealing with the pressure again. He was able to come through and beating the defending champion without dropping a set as well. I mean, 7-6, 7-6. That's impressive to get it done in straights.
Yeah, definitely. First serves unreturned. Hurkacz 54%, Alcaraz 15%. And Alcaraz still comes through. Hurkacz, I'll give him a lot of positives again. Obviously, the negatives are necessary because there's a reason he lost to Alcaraz. But he serves immaculately. His serve is so difficult to read. One of the few players who can outfox Alcaraz because it doesn't matter how far back Alcaraz goes.
Very quick motion. I think that's part of the.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the ball goes up and it's like on you in a flash, basically, and you don't know if it's going tee, you don't know if it's going wide a lot of the time. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, sort of taking it on the rise a little bit. Really impressive stuff. I don't know if he does take it on the rise. Actually, maybe it looks like that. I don't know.
I think.
Yeah. Either way, yeah, it's tough to read because it comes at you so quickly. Definitely, it comes at you from such a height. Obviously, I think that's one of the advantages of being a top player is you can literally you can laser the ball into the place you need it to go rather than have to. You can get the same pace, but if you're putting more height in the ball to get it over the net first, it won't actually be the same speed when it reaches the player, if that makes sense. So so I mean it worked really well against Alcaraz. The one area for me in this match specifically, yes, you're right about returns definitely, but first serve +1, the forehand was a little bit spray in the tie breaks.
Can be a wee bit edgy under pressure, especially the inside out forehand. I've noticed in the past it can sort of fly away or he can lose it, and when he loses it, he can sometimes go off, for a few games, or maybe if we're talking minute term, time terms, it'd be 10, 15 minutes that can just not be quite right, and the top players can exploit that,
Yeah, I mean, that was literally it, exactly. I definitely agree with that. For me, I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into this in the blogs. It's a thing that fascinates me a lot, but forcing an error from Alcaraz, certainly for somebody like Hurkacz, who doesn't possess massive firepower off either wing, pretty much only approaches to the net that were forcing errors. I mean, Alcaraz moves so well. If you were just to stay at the baseline the whole time, I mean, he could do that all day, literally. Or, I mean, obviously he'd finish the point first. He can hit amazing defensive shots into offense as well. So, really interesting to see how Hurkacz could even win basic points off of outside of serves against Alcaraz. Very interesting. Final Alcaraz v Ruud.
Yeah, very, very highly anticipated match, and I thought Alcaraz's level in the final was phenomenal, barring the first 10 minutes. Obviously, he had a
little bit of a dip. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think just he missed a few forehands, really. That's what it amounted to lose that break of serve.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Ruud was happy to put it deep and see what happened. And he got away with it, to be honest.
The match very, very well.
He was solid, but...
The problem was when Alcaraz raised his level, it was becoming more and more difficult for Ruud to sort of gain control of the rallies. He was being rushed a lot, especially he was forced to pretty much be on the back foot defensive a lot of the time, and ultimately Alcaraz was just, when he raised his level, it was very difficult for Ruud to come up with a plan that would actually get Alcaraz off his stride, and pressure consistently. So
he looked a bit shaken up after he dropped his serve from 40 up, I thought, in the first set.
I think that was a big factor, yeah. He needed a double break for me when he goes a break out, even when he was 3-love up 10 minutes and the scoreboard looks good. I'm still thinking,
yeah, you're like, yeah. exactly. I mean, during that 40 love mini comeback from Alcaraz, there was like approaches to the net that we just don't see from Ruud. I mean, Hurkacz can do it in his sleep, but yeah, exactly. Just like, and he didn't do it off the right balls at all, and he got easily past. And after that, it was one way traffic. Like 8 of the next 9 games went Alcaraz's way. Obviously, Ruud did dig in, but we both knew after Alcaraz went a double break up.
Yeah, I expected Alcaraz to get broken again, but I'm like, that's why you've got the double break. You can get nervy for that game, then compose yourself and just.
Yeah, exactly. So really, I think the fact that Ruud was making pretty crazy approaches to the net and some choice drop shots every now and then kind of says to me that he wasn't very confident his ground stroke game could beat Alcaraz's. And that's okay. I can have all the spin in the world, but honestly, Alcaraz can construct a point over 10 shots. He can construct a point over 2 shots. It doesn't matter what ball he gets. He finds a way to get up in the point, basically.
He's very good on the pressure, which is even worse, where you can't even expect a dip.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately for him, the dip came at the start of the match, but after 10 minutes in, there was no dip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Amazing match still. Yeah, obviously. Amazing tournament. Only Spanish winner of the Miami Open.
Yeah.
8 previous finalists. 5, Nadal 5 times, Ferrer, Bruguera, and Carlos Moya. The third youngest winner of a Masters title behind Chang in Montreal in 1990 and Nadal in Monte Carlo in 2005. Alcaraz is technically 18 years old and 10 months as well, but just a little bit older than Nadal. Amazing. Obviously, I don't know if there's much more to say about it at the moment. Just in all.
May it continue. Yeah, I love watching him play.
So do I. We will move on to the WTA tournament.
Yep.
Start with Naomi Osaka and her run from number 70 odd in the world to the final. First, what were you going to say? Were you not surprised? Did you say?
Not surprised, no.
Yeah, she's the lowest ranked player, obviously, to make the Miami final, but it's all asterisks, isn't it?
I think it feels I think she feels comfortable there because IMG sort of run. But I think she gets on well, better rapport with the fans there.
That helps, exactly. It does help.
So, not surprised.
Her first final there, to be fair, in Miami, so a little unprecedented. The letdown of the tournament for me, I think we were talking about it last week, Collins Osaka, and I was like, it's going to be bloody 7-5 in the third or whatever it is. 6-2, 6-1, unfortunately. Danielle Collins definitely injury-strewn to some extent. I think it was her neck that was bothering her.
The excuse, it would have been good had the neck not been...
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the serve was as erratic as you will ever see a professional player hit a serve. So, I mean, there's definitely something going wrong. Like, the serve could barely get put in the court, and she did one underarm serve, which I've never seen from a female player before. Obviously, I mean, she missed that. It didn't matter. She looked, very badly injured, I've got to say. So it was a shame because that could have been a really good match. Osaka just walks all over her, unfortunately. A really good match, though, in the semi-finals. Osaka Bencic. Osaka was previously love and 3 to Bencic, so this was a really interesting match actually from a sort of analytical standpoint for me. Bencic so good, obviously, creating power on the backhand side with an open stance. This is a really interesting point because she will step into the court for a backhand return. Because she's got the open stance, it's quite difficult for players to tell what way she's going to direct it, basically. Yeah, and also she gets better balance on it, so it doesn't matter if you've got a pretty decent serve. She can still put a good countered backhand into the court. So a player like Bencic for Osaka, her backhand's really good. Osaka's backhand is really good, but she prefers to attack on the forehand. And if you can get her on the back foot on the backhand, it can be very tough for her to live with her opponent. And that's kind of, Bencic was doing that throughout the match on second serve return in particular. So just a little bit of history. Obviously, in those last 3 matches, Bencic had won the same amount of points in the sort of 1 to 3 shot category as Osaka. So you're talking about serve plus ones and returns. But 4 to 6, Bencic had dominated that category every time, and that's your sort of returns plus 1 shot, or return points that go over 1 point. Basically, is the majority of return points that go over 1 shot. Sorry, is the majority of those points. So Osaka's got a really good return, but the problem is it's so linear, so pacey, that she relies on her players getting sort of knocked back on their feet to get up in the point.
Short ball and then attack short ball, yeah.
Exactly. Somebody like Bencic, who takes the ball early, doesn't rely on too much of her own power, is very good at countering that sort of ball.
Using the pace of the team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then on the other side of that, Bencic takes her return so early, it's like it doesn't matter how slowly she hits the ball, because it's back on Osaka so quickly. She feels like she's basically on the back foot the whole time. And obviously because Osaka's using her backhand return, her preferred return, to knock her opponent's back, and because it's so linear and not taken early in the court, obviously you'll find it's a lot easier to go over the highest part of the net if you're further in the court. So Bencic has the advantage of being able to change direction easier. Yep. Osaka has the disadvantage of not being able to do that, and will probably put it back to Bencic's backhand, her strength. So it's quite interesting, those little nuanced points, and you can see it happening a lot of the time. Like Osaka doesn't have a choice but to absolutely leather it back cross court, and Bencic is can just like direct it down the line. She's amazing at doing that. So yeah, really interesting. Interesting to hear Osaka afterwards saying, honestly, I don't really feel like I figured her out at all. I hit some pretty good serves. She's just hit winners off of them. So she admitting basically that she still, she didn't feel like she had the advantage in that match.
Tactical master plan or something, yeah.
Yeah. It was super interesting. For me, the only difference in this match was Osaka served amazingly. Like she served 18 aces, the most aces that anybody served this year in the WTA. And she was down 1-2, 15-40, 3 unreturned serves in a row, points like that. And that made the biggest difference because she went on to win the next 4 games. That was the turning point, basically. And Bencic played an amazing match and easily could have won it if Osaka had blinked. Really exciting. I mean, obviously, I liked it from a nerdy point of view. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I can tell. Like, you went all Patrick Mortoglu there.
Yeah, I did, yeah. I didn't make any crazy claims about, Kyrgios or anything like that, to be fair. No controversy in there, right, Gav? I don't know.
It was just sort of like the hand gesture, like the patch.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I should be on video. I know, it's true, actually. I did do some crazy hand gestures there, listeners, if you want to know. Next time I'll get Gav to audio describe it. Yeah, Osaka, very tearful at the end of the match. Obviously, quite a big deal for her. I think a lot of that's to do with her, the Indian Wales response and how, she felt like uncomfortable on the court.
I just try and avoid any of her interviews, being honest. I get irritated with the press conferences, but
fair dues, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like obviously she was so upset from having been heckled in Indian Wells. It was just a relief for her to have the crowd on her side, so it was very nice for her to make a deep run again, basically.
Yeah.
Swiatek, we can go to Swiatek.
Yep.
Did you manage to catch her versus Kvitova?
Didn't see the Kvitova match, no, but watched the final. I watched the final, but
I'll very quickly just talk about a few of the things.
Yeah.
She was able to do against Petra. Petra, obviously, usual pattern of plays to force a slower ball from her opponent and then just hit a lights out next shot. Pretty much none of her points are going to go over 1 to 4 shots, really. Swiatek not giving her a chance to execute, really. Only area that Swiatek did give her a chance was on second serve. And to be honest, Kvitova could have done a lot better. She missed a lot of returns, never really able to get up in any of the return points, or enough of the return points. Didn't generate a break point on Swiatek's serve. Swiatek spoke about first serve after the match, to be fair, and she did take a little bit off that serve to avoid hitting second serves. It did make a big difference because, even 10 miles an hour with a little bit more spin on the ball can stop Kvitova, jumping into the court and putting you on the back foot. Kvitova really good on serve as well. She could have just been a little bit tidier and it might have been a little bit more difficult. Only one good serve required for her a lot of the time to put Swiatek on the ropes. She's got that amazing lefty serve out wide, sometimes serving volleying off it. One of the few players on the WTA Tour that actually serves in volleys. She could have done it more often than that, to be honest, because she won pretty much every point she tried that on. To give you an idea, juice first serve points won for Petra Kvitova was 58% compared to 80% in the ad court, so she was so much better when she had that lefty serve out wide. But yeah, I suppose there was just too many massive forehand returns in the juice court. I guess if there was one place she could have improved her game, it would have been in that juice court serve. I would have liked to have seen serving volleys on that side as well, to be honest. She did try it once and it worked. So, I don't know, just a little bit more variety against Swiatek, who's going to beat anybody on return, anybody in a baseline rally, basically. She had the tools to hurt Swiatek as well with the forehand inside out, but just obviously she doesn't move that quickly, so she couldn't often run around it to get that shot, but when she did, she won like 6 of the 9 shots she landed that shot, so 6 of the 9 points she landed that shot. So yeah, really interesting one analytically. Again, just Swiatek too solid, and obviously Petra Kvitova, I suppose, just generally is able to beat anybody on her day. But we saw all those tools actually almost working if she just put it together a little bit better.
Yeah, just getting the final end product. That's the big.
Exactly, yeah. Or just like a consistency in pulling off your tactics, basically, and a lot of the time the execution level is just a little bit too high. We did see her start to do drop shots, and for me, that's a sign of desperation rather than because it's not something Kvitova does that often. So, unfortunately, I didn't see Swiatek Pegula, and I don't believe you did either, Gav.
I didn't see that either. No.
So
I
I know exactly, and I had to catch up on a lot. The only stat I can give you is that Pegula actually has the third most Masters wins since the beginning of 2021.
Wow.
So if anybody's thinking, oh, why the hell is Jessica Pegula in a semi-final? She's won 23 matches since the beginning of 2021, second only.
Ben Rosenberg with that sort of question.
I know, yeah, exactly, yeah. So disrespectful, exactly. 22 matches since the beginning of 2021, second only to Badosa, 23, and Swiatek obviously at 26. I will have an analysis of that on the blog at one point, so please don't start sending me hate mail or anything like that. I'm sure we'll get it analysed, don't worry. Let's talk about Swiatek Osaka instead.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a bit of a routing in the end, but how did you feel about it, Gav?
Yeah, going into it, I did think that Swiatek, I was very impressed with her level, obviously from Indian Wells and from Miami. But I thought it'd be a really close match. To be honest, I thought we were going to get another 3-hour epic. I think Osaka, I thought would go out there a few more relaxed in the Miami with the crowd. And for me, I thought Swiatek, especially the second set, was a masterclass. It was really, really a masterclass. It was phenomenal. I mean, going into the Osaka forehand, which a lot of players are not willing to do, despite the fact that the forehand is more likely to break down, despite being the more powerful shot, because obviously more aggressive in the forehand, it's going to leak errors. And Swiatek's movement was able to counteract Osaka's power. And I thought, yeah, phenomenal performance. For I think what age is Swiatek? Is she 18, 19?
No, 20, I think. 20. Yeah, 20.
Well, even that's still young in relative terms. I mean, that's still phenomenal performance to come out with that at that age. I know she's won a slam and we've seen her perform well in the big matches before, but I thought tactically, the way she was able to execute a plan and she was able to really dominate Osaka towards the end. It was a rout. I mean, that second set was a complete rout, and nothing Osaka could do to counteract it, really. So
one of the tactics she did try, they're both amazing second serve returners and servers for that matter, so they both actually cover their second serve really well as well. But looking at Swiatek's serve against Osaka's return and then vice versa, it was clear Swiatek had the edge. So Osaka was trying to step in really early. You were saying she was trying to take on massive forehands, obviously, and backhand returns, both of them. But you try and step in against a heavy ball. As a tennis player, Gav, I don't know if you've ever played a really difficult kick serve.
Oh, yeah.
On clay, obviously, can be especially tough.
Yep.
But even on a hard court or any court, it's quite difficult to read if you step in early.
Because you step in early in a big kick serve, you're nearly fucked. I mean, you
pretty
much because in the pace, but yeah,
because the ball can just go in any direction, obviously, and the best servers and the best returners in the world are so good at that, obviously, but Swiatek's serve is so loaded. I imagine that made it a little bit difficult for, and because they were so deep as well, she's not afraid to hit deep second serves. Taking them early is so difficult for Osaka, especially when they're sort of spinning into Osaka's body, stopping her hitting her preferred backhand returns against Swiatek. So really not able to reliably attack Swiatek's second serve at all, and she didn't face a break point throughout the match. And then on the other side of that, Swiatek, both of her return wings at the moment are amazing. Obviously, the forehand has always been so good, and as you say, her forehand into Osaka's forehand, I don't think it matters if you've got the best forehand in the world on the other side of the court. Well, Swiatek's forehand probably is the best forehand in the world at the moment, to be honest. So that's ironic, but if she's hitting, at those massive forehand returns, and they don't look massive, I think, on screen because maybe they look so safe, like they land quite short in the court, but they're so spinny and so big and so fast. Doesn't matter who you've got there. Like she can take them so early, so reliably. Osaka was just like absolutely blown off court by that shot. So that was the biggest difference. Obviously, she's improved that backhand return. She was still able to attack with that when Osaka did try that as well. Yeah, the other main reason for me as well. So against Sakkari, we talked about that matchup a lot. Sakkari is able to hit really heavy balls down the middle and then get that second shot off of Swiatek, and that's why she'd struggled in the past. Doesn't really happen anymore, and it's because I think it's because Swiatek's using that sort of knees to the ground shot a lot.
Closer to the ground,
the sort of Kerbery one. That we see a lot. It just helps her, control that forehand a lot better when
Danska as well used to do that.
Yeah, Danska, exactly. When she gets a really massive forehand hit to her, she can counter with her own forehand into anywhere on the court. Basically, if she positions herself like that. Really interesting match, even though it was 4-love. I was really looking forward to it. Obviously, it was really good, and it was good to see those two get through. Both sort of introverted, quiet, kind of personable people at the same time. Just quite a modest and lovely set of players to reach the final.
Drama.
Exactly.
Aggro. Hate that word aggro, but no aggro.
No aggro, exactly. Yeah. Amazing. We've talked about Swiatek a lot recently, obviously, but we'll talk about her a bit more. New world number 1. Becomes the first Polish player to take the top spot. Aga Radwanska obviously made it to number 2, I believe.
Yep.
4th player to win the Sunshine Double behind Graf, 94 and 96, Kleisters, 05, and Vika, 16. Swiatek lost her first 250 final. After that, she's won her next 6 finals, 1 Slam, 4 Masters, and 1 500, dropping 20 games combined. It's not bad, is it? It's seriously mind-blowing, actually. It has beaten Sakkari, Bencic, Osaka now, Kontaveit, Pliskova, Strong, Kenin, I would add. Yeah, amazing set of players to beat. Seriously, so good. Rambled on for long enough, haven't we?
Yeah, put them misery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you for putting up with us for this long, listeners. It was very nice of you to listen in. You can catch us next week, I'm sure, or you can catch us in the meantime, on jackedward.substack.com or ontheline-tennis.uk. You can catch Gav's work on Last Word on Tennis.
Yeah, we're doing some predictions this week, I think, from
Houston.
Men's Clay Court Championship, which Brooksby's playing in today.
So he is.
I think making an appearance again. That'll be good.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Catch Gav's work there then. Thank you very much for listening again. We'll catch you next time on the Online Tennis Podcast. Cheers. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.